Oh, hello, Marty. Hold on. My audio is jacked up. Hold on. Say something, Marty. Oh, you're muted.
There you go.
There you go.
I was about to send you to the people at the hearing aid thing, Tim.
No, here I am. What's going on, Marty? How are you?
Not much. I'm walking now, which is a big improvement over before.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. And it's a slow, long slog, but I'm feeling a whole lot better.
Yeah, that's great. How's Fran doing?
Fran's doing fine, except for being slightly depressed. Other than that,
Yeah.
she's been fine.
Is she still going through chemo, or is she done? Or
She's done the chemo, the standard protocol.
yeah,
After the surgery is 6 months. So they delay a couple of months after the surgery, and then they do a standard course of chemo and
yeah.
radiation. And after 6 months, they stop and they watch and wait.
All right.
Not so
Well,
well.
I guess she responded well to chemo, though. Yeah.
She did
Yeah.
fine. But
Good, good.
you know, if you look at the medical literature, it's not a good disease to have.
Sure. Sure. Well, I guess for the time being, I guess that she's
Yeah,
very
she
healthy.
is. In fact, we're planning to travel in the springtime if everything goes well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. That's great.
Figure, no reason not to. The longer you wait, the less likely we are able to do it.
Yeah. I mean,
Here's Terry.
yeah, she's joining us from the West Coast, from Seattle.
California. Yeah.
Yep. How's it going?
Doing okay.
Good, good.
Yeah, it's been a while, Marty. We all missed you.
I know. Well, it wasn't by choice. I tell you, it's been a real struggle. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
Okay. You said you guys are celebrating Thanksgiving on Friday?
Yeah.
Yeah. Kids all coming down? Both
Yeah.
Seth and
Our Jared and his wife are down already.
okay.
Seth and his wife and the kids are probably coming down tomorrow. We're going to have Thanksgiving on Friday.
Cool.
That's Indigenous Peoples Day anyway.
That's right.
We don't celebrate. None of our family was around even close to when the original Thanksgiving was. So we figured no reason to celebrate it.
That's right. As long as you begin with a land acknowledgement ceremony, we're all good.
That's right.
Well, I don't. What time are you thinking about doing it on Friday?
Probably sometime mid-afternoon or so.
Okay.
What's your schedule like?
I don't. We're supposed to meet with some friends that afternoon, like around 1 or 2, somewhere around there. I don't know
Well,
the
it's
exact
going to be
time.
later than that. So let me
Yeah.
know.
Okay.
No, we're not very, formal about these meals, especially with the 2 grandkids running around.
Yeah.
So they just come
I will say, I'm also traveling the day after, early in the morning. I'm flying out to Denver Saturday morning. So
yeah, you got a helmet?
What's that?
You got a helmet?
No, I'm an old school snowboarder with just
No, you're dumb.
no helmet.
That's just as
I'm an
dumb as
idiot.
they come.
I know. I should get a helmet.
Do you bike with a helmet?
I do bike with a helmet. I know it doesn't make any sense. There's no reason why I should not be wearing a helmet, but I don't. Yeah, I don't have a helmet.
You like the wind in your hair, right?
Yeah, exactly. You know, you got to let these locks fly. You know, flow in the air, Marty. But yeah, Jacob and Nadia is already out there. We're gonna go into the Rockies. I'm gonna snowboard for like 5 days. Keystone this year.
Oh, okay. That's close. It's an easy rise for Denver.
Yeah.
Except the tunnel was closed for a while.
Yeah, it was closed yesterday because of the snow. So hopefully, I mean, we're not leaving till Monday, so hopefully it will be cleared out by then. Yeah, so which will be good. It's just they're getting snow, which is all good news for what I'm trying to do. So yeah, but it looks like it's gonna be cold though. It's getting down to like single digits out there. So
it's gonna be cold here too.
Yeah, it's gonna be quite cold.
Yeah.
Anyways. All right, well, let's get started. It is the day before Thanksgiving Eve, the most drinking day of the year. In case any of you guys were not aware, people drink more the day Thanksgiving Eve than any other day.
Is that right?
In America, yeah. Which I found is surprising. I always thought it was gonna be New Year's Eve, but apparently Thanksgiving Eve is the heaviest consumption day of them all. So here we are, celebrating appropriately. So thank you all for being here. I don't know how many will show up, how many won't show up, but we'll see. Whatever, doesn't matter. I already see some people have traveled already. The Dahans are together, I see. Which is all great. Stressing out about seeing family. Yeah, that's also true. All that stress. Apparently, like a lot of people travel home, and this is a time they get to see their like high school buddies and people they grew up with. So they all get together to drink, and because they're about to go hang out with their families. So the day before is like the big day with their friends, childhood friends. So yeah, I've heard that is why. But either way, don't really have much of an announcement here. Next week is the first week, Wednesday. So next Tuesday is going to be the pickup/delivery day. For those of you who live out of state, your wines have been shipped already. They should be on their way. But otherwise, just know that next Tuesday is a pickup/delivery day. But besides that, I don't really have any other thing. Everybody who's on here, I think I'll be either personally spoken to already, or you have already let me know whether you want to join Bosch Club. So this message for most of the other people who are probably tuning in later or watching the recording. But if you want to join in on Bosch Club, let me know. I only have about like 5 spots left. So once those are filled, I can't get you any more because I could only get a limited amount of wines this year. So it's not like I can add you on later. So if you want in, if you're sitting on the fence, now would be the time. So let me know. Besides that, I don't really have any other announcement, but this month I have chosen WABA, Washington Area Bicycle Association, as an organization that I'm donating the 1% of revenue to. So if you want to donate alongside 6 Foot Wine Club, or you want to learn what they do, the chat link is right there in the chat box. Any questions about anything else besides any questions about anything before we get into the wine? Next month's theme is Georgia, by the way, in case you haven't heard. It's not. I try to keep it much more approachable. Kind of the shallower to mid-depth level pool of Georgia wines. I'm not dumping you into the deep end of the Georgian pool where you're gonna drown in tannin and just extracted red wine and orange wine that will rip your gum out with their tannin. So there's some fun stuff in there, much more fun, much more elegant, much more pulled back. But yeah, but you will get the essence of what Georgian wine is all about as well. But all right, hearing no other questions, let's get into the wine. We're wrapping up the sparkling box with this guy. This is non-vintage, Domaine Brazilier, Methode, Brut is what we're tasting. I mentioned this at the beginning of the month, but the way I kind of designed this box is the way, I mean, these are the 4 bottles that I'm excited about consuming this year on New Year's Eve. It's just kind of the way I was thinking about it. So, the first week that we taste the Pennat, the Jacquard Pennat from Savoie, right? Like that's like the lower ABV, kind of earlier in the evening, kind of pop open the wine, just hang out before the midnight comes. And then come to midnight, you open up the good stuff, right? You get that half bottle of champagne, which is the second week that we did, the paillard. And then if you still wanna, if that is not enough, because it's only a half bottle, and let's all be real, we're all luscious here at this wine club, but that's not gonna be enough. So you want to open up a little bottle of Reserva Cava afterwards to follow up. And if you want to keep going with the party, I think at this point you will be a couple bottles deep. It doesn't really matter. Shouldn't be opening a super complex cerebral wines. You just need something that's gonna wrap up the end of the night, something approachable, delicious, and I think this is the perfect thing. Or if you want to wait till the next day, I think this is also an incredible brunch wine, brunch sparkling wine. So either way, but I either want to wrap up the night with this bottle or start the day with this bottle in the morning. It's kind of the way I see how this style of wine kind of plays it. But also another way to look at kind of the nerdy side of it all is that for last 3 weeks, so last 2 weeks and this week, for 3 weeks, we're essentially tasting all Methode traditional wines, but all in the decreasing amount of least contact. So this is the least amount of least contact that we've had. It's still 18 months, but we've had almost 4 years, 48 months with the first one. Last week was 32 months. And then now we're going down to 18 months. So there's quite a bit of difference in these things. And it's just another way to also taste through and then what it does to the wines for it to kind of taste it all together. So if you kind of remember, if you have sensory memories of the bubble size, as well as kind of that savory, beezy, autolytic characters that we felt with the cava and champagne, this is dramatically different. And then we'll talk about why that is when we get to tasting it. But let's start with a map because we always do. So here we are. There's a map of France. We are in Loire Valley this week. This map should look pretty familiar to all of you. You should know where Loire Valley is by this point. We've been here many times over the years. But yeah, this is kind of the center of France. Extends all the way from Atlantic Ocean, going all the way to pretty much in the smack dab center of France, right? So it's a pretty long, wide region. And as you can imagine, the soil type changes, the climate changes. There are many, many different things that can play going from the coast, going all the way to the inland. And that's part of the reason why the Loire Valley is so varied in terms of kind of styles that are available. You can find something for everyone. They make red, they make white, they make rosé, they make sparkling still, dry wine, lusciously sweet dessert wines. I mean, there's something for everyone here. And it's part of the reason why this is one of my favorite regions, as well as if somebody said, if you could only pick one region to drink for the French region to drink for the rest of your life, I would pick Loire just because it has so many different various styles that are available here. If you look at Loire Valley more closely, this is kind of how it breaks down. It kind of breaks down into these like 4 different parts, all the way from the right on the Atlantic coast, Pays Nantais. This is where around the town of Nantes. This is where Muscadet comes from. We've had Muscadet here, classic oyster pairing wine, right? Made from a grape variety called Melon de Bourgogne. Not meant to be a really like high, long aging, serious, quote unquote, serious wine. It's meant to be a quick little starter. If you ever go to a French restaurant and if you order some oysters or, seafood tower, this would be a great wine to start with. It's never that expensive. So Muscadet comes from here. And then you got Anjou coming in, and then around the town of Touraine, the region named after namesake, town of Tours named Touraine, and then the central part. So it's kind of divided into 4 different regions. And as you move from the Atlantic coast going more inland, the climate becomes much more continental. So the closer you are to a large body of water, there's a moderating effect, right? That's why, places like Finger Lakes, for example, all those lakes have a moderating effect on the really, really super cold winter up there. And that's what makes viticulture possible. Otherwise, it'd just be too damn cold. The same thing here. This kind of moderates the influence. There's a lot more Atlantic influence. It's a bit wetter out here, a lot more moderate. But as you go inland, it becomes much more continental, meaning it gets really hot in the summertime, but it also gets bitterly, bitterly cold in the wintertime. So yeah, in the center, probably the places you will most likely recognize are Sancerre, right? I mean, these are some of these names you will definitely recognize. Sancerre is right here. This is Sancerre. Quincy, Pouilly-Fumé is right here. So a lot of Sauvignon Blanc territory. If you ask me, I think the center Loire, like Sancerre particularly, should actually be a Rosé and a Pinot Noir territory, not a Sauvignon Blanc territory. It's too cold and all of that, but I get a lot of probably hate mail for saying that. All you Sancerre fans out there, but yeah, more and more, especially as global warming comes, I think Sancerre is going to become much more of a red wine important region than a white wine as in the future. But yeah, so that's where that is. And then going inward towards the ocean, terrain around the town of Tours. This is, I mean, when we talk about Loire as in general, what really the largest majority of grape varieties we're talking about is Chenin Blanc for the white wine and the Cabernet Franc for the red wine. Having said that, like I mentioned, Melon de Bourgogne for Muscadet, it's another white grape that's very, very dominant here. As well as a Gamay is grown here, Pinot Donis is grown here, Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, I mean, you name it. A lot of different varieties are grown here, but really, particularly for Anjou and Touraine, we're really talking about Cabernet Franc and Chenin Blanc. Right here, when for today's wine, this week's wine, we are right here. Côte du Vendomois is where we are, and as you can see, this is kind of a north of main stretch of Loire vineyards. So these are the kind of the main stretch running along the Loire River, hence the Loire region. But this is a north tributary. This, funny enough, this river that runs through this part, the Côte du Vendomois, is also named Loire, at least in the English pronunciation, but it's Loire without the E. So it's Loir, which is this tributary that runs up here. And then the main river that runs through Loire is Loire, Loire. So confusing, but it's the same. So when you come up here, when you get a little north, it gets a little bit cooler up here, for sure. But this Côte de Loire and Côte du Vendomois, this is where the grape Pinot Domaine, which is a native red or black grape variety, predominates. This is where it's from. This is where it originates, and it's grown in other parts as well, particularly in Chardonnay down here. There's quite a bit of Pinot Domaine being grown here, but really Côte de Vendomois and Côte de Loire is where Pinot Domaine is found. And we'll talk about Pinot Domaine once we get to the actually production part of this wine, because this is 50% Pinot Domaine, 50% Chenin Blanc. This is what these wines are. But just to talk about Côte de Vendomois a little bit more, it's not super old. They were actually at a table wine, just a country wine, Vin de Pays level, just quality wine classification, but in 2001, it got promoted into a appellation, the AOP system. So since 2001, Côte de Vendomois is its own AOC. Stylistically, the appellation here is the wines are going to be a little bit, crisper, lighter. It doesn't have the kind of same level of concentration and even the complexity that you would often find in Touraine, in places like a Chinon or Bourgogne, or in Anjou. But don't let that be a bad thing, because depending on the producer that you find up here is also a good place to find great value. So now coming off of the main stretch of Loire River in a tributary, this is where you find just as good, sometimes even better, but at a fraction of the cost, because now it's not as well known as other ones. It does make red, rosé, and white, so it makes all three different styles, still and sparkling as well. Sparkling is what we're having today. Reds here, like I mentioned, are predominantly made from Pinot Domaine. Anytime you see Côte de Vendomois red wine, if you ever see it in a retail store, know that by law, 50%, half of that has to be Pinot Domaine. And then the rest of it can be blended in with Cabernet Franc, Pinot Noir, Gamay, some other things. But 50% of it has a Pinot Donis. And then if you ever see Vin Gris or rosé wine from Côte de Vendôme, it's going to be 100% Pinot Donis. By law, it has to be. So that's how much importance Pinot Donis plays in this particular appellation. And for those of you who've never heard of Pinot Donis, we'll talk about that, like I said, in a little bit. But it's one of my favorite varieties coming out of Loire Valley. It's really, it almost went into extinction. It's kind of coming back into style, but it's cool stuff. Small portion of it, of the wines that come from this this place is white. It's only about 1/6 is white wine. So it's really, we're talking about red wine and a rosé territory. But you know, it's also, the white wine is Chenin Blanc. It does have a little bit of, it can have some Chardonnay thrown in there as well. But and like I mentioned, like a Chinon white, Chinon Blanc, which is made from Chenin Blanc, as well as Anjou Blanc, which is made from Chenin Blanc. The Chenin Blanc you're going to find from Côte de Vendôme is never going to be that concentrated, oftentimes. Obviously, there are exceptions to the rule, but in general, we're talking about much more quaffable, kind of like an easy drinking, approachable style of wine, higher in acid, crisper, lighter. But again, it depends on the producer, and then this is oftentimes a good place to find value because of that. Let's talk about who makes this wine. Here's a picture of him as well. But by the way, that's their tasting room. If you remember, we've talked about, this is tuffeau, which is a very kind of porous limestone that runs through all of Loire Valley. And this is kind of what gives this region a very particular minerality and terroir and different kind of a mineral backbone to the wines. But yeah, this is right underneath their vineyards. This is cut into the side of their hillside. Their cellar, as well as tasting room, is in their tuffeau cave. So that's a shot of that. This is the guy who makes it. Benoit Brazilier. His dad is Jean Brazilier, who's a 6th generation, and Benoit is a 7th generation of the family, Brazilier family, to carry on the family tradition, which began in 1780. So this family has been growing wine, growing grapes, but making of the wine really start with him and his dad. So his family has been grape growers, but actually making wine and selling it under his family name really began with his dad and Benoit. Joined the family in 1997, and Jean's dad is still involved, but Benoit is the one who runs the family winery, and he's the one who's in charge of the winemaking. They farm about 25 hectares of vines, pretty significant in this part of France. The Loire Valley, no one really has large holdings of land. So the fact that they're farming 25 hectares is pretty impressive. 10 of those 25 are family owned. The rest 15 are leased. But they were all replanted by Jean, his dad himself, over the last 25 years. And all of their farming is done completely biodynamically, and they're not certified. They're certified organic, but they're not certified biodynamic. But they farm biodynamically, but they're not certified. But yeah, that's what makes it. Now, I said we're going to talk about Pinot Donis for a second. So let me talk about that for a sec. So this grape, this wine is 50%, 50 and 50 Chenin Blanc and Pinot Donis. Chenin Blanc, white grape variety, probably my second favorite grape variety of all time after Riesling. So Chenin, and then the other 50 is a Pinot Donis, which is a black grape. But obviously we have a white sparkling wine. So essentially they're all grown biodynamically, and then they're direct press. As soon as they come into the cellar, they just press it off the skins, and then they ferment the juice, and that's essentially where we get to this white wine, white sparkling wine with no color, even though half of it is a black grape. So Pinot Donis is a native black grape of this region. I personally love Pinot Donis. It makes this kind of like a light red berry, tart, berry forward wines, but it always has these kind of like white / black peppery kind of a notes, little savory peppery notes, which I really love. In terms of like this really quaffable kind of like just really delicious, like sensory-wise, delicious, hedonistic wines. I think Pinot Donis hits the mark very well. It was also one of the favorite grape varieties or wines of King Charles III, and it was exported as a vin claret, so claret wine, so kind of rosé-ish, very light blush kind of a red wine, to the English court in the 13th century. But it fell from that kind of a high popularity to almost extinction, but then now it's making its return. Like I mentioned, Cabernet Franc is a major dominant variety here, and with the commercial success of Cabernet Franc, a lot of people kind of left Pinot Donis, abandoned Pinot Donis, and just started planting Cabernet Franc. And quite frankly, I don't blame them. Pinot Donis is notoriously a very, very hard grape to grow. It's very finicky. It's very, very susceptible to bunch rot. It also regularly produces irregular yields every year. So it's hard to predict how much wine you're going to be able to make. Extremely sensitive to soil condition. So yeah, there's just many, many reasons why Pinot Donis was unfavorable next to grapes like Cabernet Franc. So yeah, in other words, it's kind of a diva of a grape, but when it's grown right, with care and made right, it can make some really, really delicious wine. Well, all these elements, all these reasons, by 1973, there were only 16 hectares of Pinot Donis left in all of Loire Valley, just to give you an idea of how much it fell out of fashion. But, you know, luckily for us, Loire Valley people are very proud of these kind of native varieties that have grown in their region. So they started planting it back, and a lot of, especially a lot of young winemakers wanted to preserve Pinot Donis and work with it. So the young producers started reviving the variety, and by 2005, the plantings now were around 71 hectares. Still not a lot. That's not great, but as a minor native variety, for it to get from 16 to 71 hectare. It's pretty remarkable. Goes to show that a lot of people have put in the effort and the energy into reviving the variety and bringing it back. So if you have never had Pinot Donis, you should go try it. I mean, today is a white wine, but you should also go find red wine version of it because it's delicious. All right, so this is 50%, 50-50 Chenin Blanc, Pinot Donis, farmed all biodynamically, grown on chalky limestone tuffeau, the cave that you saw. All hand harvested, direct press, and it's fermented with the native yeast in a stainless steel tank. This is the first fermentation, and afterwards in February following the harvest. So, you know, harvest is usually around, you know, depending on the variety, but you know, anywhere between June, July to like September, October. So February following that, after the winter, this gets bottled. And the secondary fermentation started with a little bit of yeast and sugar. And then the wine is aged on the lees for 18 months before disgorgement. So like I mentioned, we had 48 months, 36 months, 32 months, and then now we have 18 months. So that's kind of the difference in the amount of lees aging that the last three wines have had. I'm told that I didn't get this off their website, but I'm told from the rep, from the distributor, that all of their riddling is done by machine. So this is not done by hand, but the actual riddling and the disgorgement is all done by machines. And this one has 3 grams per liter of dosage added after the disgorgement. So again, still nothing. And a lot of people, a lot of you may be thinking, oh my God, this is quite sweet. There's a lot of fruit in this wine, but there's only 3 grams of dosage added to this wine, just to give you an idea. So technically speaking, on a lab data is very, very low in sugar, but perceptively, we're going to get there's a lot of sugar in this wine, just because there's so much generous fruit that's in this wine. So any questions about anything I just went over before we get into tasting it? Quite frankly, I found that 3 grams per liter dosage to be quite surprising myself because I thought the dosage was a little bit higher just because I felt like there's a little bit of residual sugar on this one. But yeah, it's only 3 grams per liter. So unless they're lying, but I don't know why they would be. Cool. Taste the wine. Who wants to take the appearance? Come on, somebody.
I do.
All right, Allison.
This wine is clear.
This wine is very clear. Yep.
I don't know, medium in intensity.
Yeah.
It's kind of yellow. Yeah. And then I would say it's like lemon, but veering into gold.
Yeah. I agree with that, Kyle. I think it's like medium lemon with a gold flecks thrown in. I think it's a little bit deeper than just lemon. So yeah, maybe pale gold, medium lemon,
Pale
if
gold.
this is an exam thing. But yeah, for our purposes, medium intense colors lemon with the gold flecks, I think is a perfectly fine answer. Any other observations about bubble size, any foam? Anything
There's the bubbles. Oh, I don't know the word for it though. The bubbles are small and rapid in my glass,
else?
and they hang out at the top.
Yeah.
They're like floating.
Yeah, me too. So it's perfect. That's exactly what I wanted to point out. So the bubble size seems a little bit bigger than what we saw last week or the week before. And it's not just like one little persistent thing, like I see it from many different places, and it's leaving some of these like little bubbles floating on the surface, which is very different from the bubbles that we saw in the Reserva Cava or in the Champagne. So yeah, just wanted to make a point of that. Cool. You get to pick the next person for the nose.
Woohoo! Let's have Marty do it. I haven't seen Marty on a call for a while.
Oh, the Godfather.
Are you in for it, Marty?
Marty, you're muted.
Well, it's clean.
Spine is clean. Yeah, spine is sound.
I think it's got some weird smells from what I'm used to drinking as far as white wine. My first impression was that it smelled like maple syrup.
Okay.
And I don't know whether that's maybe honey. I am not sure.
Yeah, I get a little bit like a honey kind of quality to it.
More
Yeah, for sure.
extracted than what I would usually call honey.
You know, it's also, I don't know, I usually get this with the Shannon, but with the Shannon, there's always this little Shannon funk, we call it, like
Yes.
kind of like the wet wool. Like there's something a little bit dirty about Shannon. And then I get some of that here. I mean, given this is half of it is Shannon, it kind of makes sense.
Right.
There's something, yeah, you're totally like this one is clean, it's not sound, but there's definitely some like that like funkiness going on here. Something dirty.
And I just get, I get something sweet on top of it. I wouldn't call it tropical fruit, but that's hard to describe.
It's an interesting nose, yeah?
Yes. Not like any Shannon I've ever had.
Yeah. Yeah. That it's like a I don't know. It's just probably a power suggestion, like the Pinot Domaine being a red grape, and then with the skin, but direct press and the skin's removed. Like I'm imagining, like I don't know, imagine like blueberries, but like skins have been peeled off and like you just smell the inside, or like some sort of berries for some reason. If you could just take away the red component of it, but like that kind of like sweet fruit kind of a thing. But yeah, I mean,
it's almost like, I don't know, preserved fruit kind
yeah.
of thing.
Agreed. I think there's some like confectionery fruit component here, like
Yeah.
really ripe confectionery, like a cooked kind of like. I mean, I get variety of things here. Like to me, there's a little bit like a blossomy floral kind of component here as well as a like a yellow apple, some quince, things like that. Definitely citrus. This is where like the lemon jam, kind of like a lemon.
More jammy than lemony.
Yeah, exactly. Like not a fresh lemon, but like a lemon marmalade, so to speak, kind of a thing happening here, for sure. You could even probably convince me there's like a touch of stone fruit, but like yeah, like your confusion about like what to put this smell to, like I totally get it. Because yeah, there's a lot going on. I get a lot of the things.
Nothing herbal about it, I can guarantee you that.
You get what?
Herbal.
Herbal. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, nothing herby, nothing green. Do you get any spice, any stone?
Maybe, maybe that's that maple syrup kind of thing. Maybe that I'm getting the smell of, things like pumpkin spice kind of stuff that makes it seem like maple syrup.
Okay. Yeah, to me, it's less maple syrup than like that like jammy thing, like the lemon jam, marmalade, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
For me.
This is really one of the few of these I've ever had. I mean, the Pinot d'Anis. I've never been a real fan of Loire Valley wines.
Yeah.
Very particular Chenin's
Yeah.
that I think are spectacular.
Yeah.
But it's interesting.
Yeah. Do you got any stony thing here? Like a minerality?
I was trying to find it.
Yeah. Yeah, on the nose, honestly, there's so much fruit here, like it's hard for me to
I
see
just
this
think
as
it's overwhelmingly, ripe fruit.
Yeah, it's very, very generous with this fruit. Oh, actually, speaking of which, I realized we never talked about the intensity of the nose, the aromas.
I think it's a very, very strong.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll call this medium plus. Like I'm
medium plus
getting
almost.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just like I'm getting. Yeah, I'm getting quite far off. So I'm gonna call this a medium plus, maybe bordering on pronounced, but yeah, for sure. It's very expressive for sure. Do you get any secondary? Do you get any of these autolytic things?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. I don't really get it either. So that's the interesting part. I mean, even the name of this wine is Methode.
You would think with all the ripe fruit and stuff, you would expect to see something. Be some.
Right. So yeah, this just goes to show, just because it's a traditional method does not mean you're gonna get this lazy, bready, yeasty, cheesy thing. Because this is traditional method, but we're not getting any of that. It's 18 months, much shorter than the last two wines we had. We clearly talked about autolytic flavors in the last 2 weeks, but we're not even picking it up on the nose here. Maybe when we get to palate, we'll get a little bit of it. But as of right now, on the nose, even though it's a traditional method, this is much more of a primary driven wine. So that's one of the reasons I wanted to point it out. So just because it's a traditional method, don't think that it's going to be a savory autolytic wine. It can still be a very much fruity, fresh kind of a wine.
No,
anything else there, Marty? Any like MLF, oak, any tertiary, anything like that?
No.
Yeah, me neither. This is very much of a primary driven thing.
I expected it at least to get a little bit of that yeasty stuff.
Yeah.
And it just isn't there.
Yeah. Agreed. Agreed. Excellent, Marty. Welcome back. And
Thanks.
you get to pick the next person for the palette.
I noticed both Daves are there.
Yeah.
How about if we pick alphabetically, Dave Corlette?
Oh dear. I feel like I'm doing it a lot lately. All right.
All right, Dave.
Keep the glass though. All right. Yeah, I mean, if you were to tell me this is off dry, I would believe you.
Right? It's this is the kind of like perception that the brain plays, like the trick that our brain plays. Like we know that this wine is dry. Like we know there's very little sugar added here, present here, but I agree. Perceptibly, this seems sweet to me too. Like I'm surprised that I didn't think I was gonna go all the way to off dry, but like there's definitely some level of sugar here. Like I was thinking this is gonna be like 7-8 grams of dosage here, but for the fact that it's 3 grams is quite actually surprising to me. But this one is dry, but I 100% agree. It does strike me as almost off dry.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Acidity, still is pretty acidic. I mean, medium, between medium plus. I think that's where I land.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with medium plus. This wine is quite acidic. I mean, the Shannon is just, especially in a colder part, where when you get up there, it gets high in acid. So, yeah, I'm gonna call this a medium plus acid. Tannin, obviously, we don't have to talk about. Alcohol, what percentage do you think it is?
I would probably say low medium, maybe 11%, maybe 12.
Yeah, I was thinking like 12 and a half. So yeah, right in the medium range. It's about what you would expect from this region. The wines are going to run right in that 12 and a half, 12 to 13 is basically what you're going to find. Body.
I always struggle with this with sparkling wines, but I would say medium body.
Yeah. How about medium? Maybe low in the medium, high in the medium minus, but somewhere in there. Moose.
Yeah, not as delicate as the ones we've been having last 2 weeks, but still on the creamy side. It's not like
Yeah.
not like a traditional prosecco or something, or not a traditional, like a mass-produced prosecco or cava.
Yeah. Exactly. I'll put this somewhere in the between delicate and creamy. Like Dave mentioned, like you can tell the bubble sizes are bigger. It's not as like delicate as the last 2 wines. But yeah, it's still not aggressive. I wouldn't call this aggressive. So yeah, somewhere between delicate and creamy, closer to creamy than it is delicate. Flavor intensity.
It's pretty flavorful for me.
Yeah.
I go medium.
Agreed. Yep, I call it medium plus as well. Expressive. Do you agree with all the things Marty called out? Anything else that's jumping out at you?
I agree with everything Marty called out. I feel like there's definitely a honey note on the palate.
Yeah.
I'm not getting a ton of mineral. I know we talked about that character in Loire, but I don't really get that on the wine.
Yeah. To me, it's not. Yeah, I don't get the flavors here. Just more of like the tension, but that's also a function of the acid too. Like with the wines that with this high acid, usually you get that too. But there's definitely some. Again, this is really a hard thing to describe. You can only I've only gotten a sense of this after having tasted so many different wines that have been grown on limestone. But all the wines that have been grown on limestone has this very particular kind of like a tension, something about like tension in the wine, very particular limestone tension, and this wine does have that as well. So again, not necessarily a minerality thing, but I can tell that this was not just grown on like sand or clay. There's some limestone here.
Okay. Yeah, for me, I
Hey.
think the common flavors would be like yellow apple, a little bit of honey, and a little bit of citrus as well.
Yeah,
Where I put
agreed.
but then we talked about a lot of other things, like they're all in there. So, delicious.
Yeah, I get some like honeysuckle here, a little floral, but yeah, some of the yellow apple is really strong for me here on this thing. Some green quince, that kind of stuff. Citrus again, lemon jam, all of that. The
And
honey
very,
note.
and as you said, quite ripe fruit.
Yeah,
Not,
exactly. Very ripe. And the fact that this is coming from like where it's coming from, Cote d'Ivoire, it's cold. Like it's hard. The fact that they're getting the fruit quality to be this ripe, speaks volume about their farming and what they're doing. Yeah. Anything on the secondary, tertiary front?
maybe a little bit more than on the nose, but not really. A touch maybe of
Yeah,
maybe a touch of doughiness or something, but not really.
yeah. I mean, to me, you could convince me maybe this has seen a little bit like there's not huge. I wouldn't even go as this is an authentic wine. Like I wouldn't even call it that. To me,
Yeah.
this is still very much in the primary, definitely no tertiary here. But this is all about the citrus, green, floral, honey note, all of that. Very ripe fruit character. With maybe like a little touch of the limestone quality that I'm talking about, the tension. But yeah, it's really we're living up here, not in the secondary or tertiary thing. The length.
Um, still going. At least medium. Goes for a little while. Yeah. I'd say medium to medium plus. Somewhere in
Yeah,
there.
I'll call this like a high end of medium, lower end of medium plus, somewhere in there. Actually, on the palate just now, I'm starting to get a little bit of like that peppery notes here, as well, just a touch. But yeah, I would land on actually medium for to finish this one. It's not as long as I would like to call it medium plus, but somewhere in there, high end of medium plus, lower end of medium, lower end of medium plus, high end of medium. All right, take it home first. How good is this wine, and would you age it?
For me, it's very balanced.
Mhm.
It's got there's a little sweetness, but it's kind of balanced by the acidity. It's got some nice complexity to it. Yeah, and we talked about the intensity also kind of falling in that medium to medium plus, and we're generous. I'd say it all kind of lines up with very good.
Yeah. Yeah, this is all lining somewhere all in the kind of medium to medium plus, right? Like this is balance, the intensity wise, we call it medium plus on the nose, medium plus on the palate. Complexity, maybe that's like, we have a bunch of stuff
primary, but
yeah. So
but I
maybe
also
that's
feel
medium.
Maybe this is just my opinion, but because it's a little unusual with the yellow apple and honey and dry, I feel like because it's a little unusual, it makes it more complex to me.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. It keeps going back, trying to like, discern what's in there, different things. So yeah, but it's all primary, so medium, maybe. And then the length we call it medium to medium plus, depending on, somewhere in between. So we got one in a squarely medium plus, one in the medium, and then one between medium plus. So we're landing somewhere between medium and medium plus, and being generous, I'm gonna give this very good. But if you call this good, I think it's perfectly reasonable. But yeah, we're landing somewhere between good and very good here. Would you age this?
That is a really interesting question. I mean, I'd be very curious to see what happened to it because it has the acidity. But the fruit is very ripe, but would that fall apart? I don't know. I would probably give it. I'd be interested to see where it was in like 2 or 3 years, but I don't think much beyond that.
Yeah, I think this wine in general has the acidity, which is the backbone. It's got the concentration, we call it medium plus. It already has a bunch of stuff going on, but by adding more, maybe it will add more additional complexity and layer and all of that. But in general, the point of this wine, I think, is not to be that. I think the point of it is to be approachable, easy drinking. This is all about the fruit and freshness of the wine. So by adding these kind of non-savory things, I'm not sure it would necessarily be better. It may be more interesting, but I don't know if it's going to be better. So I would say drink this now. I think it's drinking beautifully. I don't think it's going to fall apart anytime soon because of that searing acidity that it has. But I think you can drink this for the next 3 to 5 years just fine. You may start to see some tertiary different development notes. Maybe some of the honey will become the fruits will become even more honeyed. The fruit character, like you were saying, Dave, maybe will change a little bit, but for next to 3 or 5 years, it'll be just fine. And if you like the direction where it's going, then you can keep it longer. But I'll say drink this over the next 3 to 5 years. Any questions about anything that we just went over about tasting, or any disagreement?
What would you pair this wine with?
To me, this is actually can go with like dessert as well, like a fruit dessert. I think it's a really good one. As well as, like I mentioned, like a brunch. I think this is excellent brunch wine, like eggs and eggs Benedict and all the like salty bacon strips. I think would be good with this. All of that. I actually think this would be quite good with the scallop dishes, like a light scallop dishes. I think it'd be good.
I don't think it would overwhelm the subtleness of something like
Maybe.
white fish and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the white butter maybe too much fruit. But to me, like scallop has that like natural sweetness running through, and that's kind of why that would work. Little like sweet, like a tart green fruit with a scallop, like apple and scallop is a really good combination. So that's kind of like where my head went. Maybe some of that like quince lemon jam with scallop. I thought it may be good. But more than anything, like to me, this is like a cheese or brunch or like a fruit salad, fruit tart, maybe even that kind of wine. That's what I call it. Any other questions?
Very well with her.
Would they have disgorged this wine too with this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they disgorged it after 18 months. So yeah, hopefully you guys see that difference, right? Like last 3 wines are all Methode Traditionnelle, but they're very, very different. And that's kind of the part of what I was trying to do, is that try to get you guys to taste through the different the least contact amount. So you know, I don't want you to think that traditional method is all champagne, all Reserva Cava. It's not like that. It can also be very fresh like this. But obviously, as it gets longer, you lose a lot of this fruit, and then it becomes much more savory and all of that. Quite frankly, with this much fruit to begin with, like the grape that's naturally giving off this generous with the fruit, you would not put it on the lees for as long as like champagne or cava. Like the cava and champagne, the base wine is actually lacking a lot in fruit. It's all about the acidity and the structure more than anything else. And then you use the aging to add complexity and then autolytic stuff. So you would rarely use fruits that are this kind of aromatic and generous in fruit to put it through. And that's probably why he only put it through like 18 months rather than, I don't know, 36 months or whatever.
Isn't it still, regardless of whether it's inland, isn't it still warmer here than in Champagne?
Oh, yes, 100%.
So, I mean, that's another thing to consider about
100%.
how you can leave it on the leaves.
Yeah,
because
100%. Yes. Yeah, Champagne is the coldest. It's the most northerly. It is the coldest for sure. All right, let's play this game. How much do you think this wine is on a retail shelf? How much would you be happy paying for this wine on the retail shelf? Just as a review, the half bottle champagne, the Paillard, with the 48 months on the lease, was $51 in retail, but it's also champagne, right? The Cava Reserva we had last week with 36 months on the lease, 38 months on the lease, was $22 in the retail. Cava, not champagne, only less than a year, less than a year shorter than these aging than champagne, but the price drops dramatically, right? 22 for 750, champagne was 51 for 375. So it's almost 1/5 the price. So this is 18 months on the lease, comes from, I wouldn't call it satellite, but it's definitely a secondary appellation within Loire. But it is still 18 months. It is still, and it is machine riddled, not hand riddled, but they still had to hold on to it for 18 months before releasing it. So how much do you think this wine is in the retail? And how much would you be happy paying? 20, 30, 34, 25, 20, 20. Anyone else? Anyone else? And the winner, or the closest one, is once again Mr. Phil Dahan. This on a retail shelf would be $18, which to me is a fantastic price. The fact that this generosity is, it's quaffable. Like, it's really enjoyable. It's just delicious. It goes down easy. You can open it with anybody, just on a, even during the day, during the week. But there's enough here that it keeps coming back. Like, whether it be all those notes that when we're tasting it, we're like, what is that maple syrup? We're like, what is going on here? What are these aromas? There's enough different things going on here. It keeps you coming back and wanting to be curious and want to taste again and again. But also, if you didn't care about any of that, you just want to drink it and just drink something delicious, I think it has that. And the fact that you can do that at $18, I think is a fantastic deal. Like I said, Côte de Vendôme is a good place to find a good value. So there you go.
I got a question.
Yes.
You're selling a bottle of this stuff for $18. I assume from the winery, it's basically they're getting half of that.
Oh, probably less than half of that, obviously.
Yeah. So
yeah.
what I'm saying is, how can this be financially feasible to try to keep on selling wine when you're only I'm sure the bottle cost €1 or so each time.
Yeah.
And even the machinery to turn the bottles and to disgorge them and stuff is expensive.
Yeah.
Seems like it wouldn't be a reasonable financial investment to go on ahead and make a wine that you're going to make such little profit out of.
Yeah, that's an excellent question, and that's why a lot of the producer, like, when all the money that we pay, even when we pay $18, like, most of that money is not going to the producers.
Oh, I know.
Most of that, most of that money is going to the middleman. It's going to the importers and particularly the distributors. But yeah, how they choose to do this, I don't know. Maybe it's just they've been doing this for 8 generations, so maybe it's just the way that their family has been doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure economically how they make it viable. Not sure.
And they obviously have to pay the owners of the property for some kind of use.
Yeah.
Over and above. They don't even own the property.
Not all of it. Yeah, they own only 10 of the 22. But they don't make just this. They make other wines as well. So they do have a little higher end bottlings that they also sell. So maybe some of that is kind of like just a volume thing, and then everything else is where they make the money. not sure. Hard for me to answer that question. But the sentiment is felt, which is, I mean, I see this all the time because I don't know if you guys told you this. So when I was in Portugal last time, I visited a producer and he wasn't importing into the US yet. And I said, how much would you sell this for? Like if I wanted to come and import this into the state, like how much would you sell this for? And he said, I don't know, €5 or something. And I was like, wow, that's crazy that you would sell wine for €5. And he just had 2 tanks in his garage. It wasn't even like a commercial winery. He's a garage guy. It's like, how do you even, how is this even worth it for you? But anyways, he was like, yeah, I'll sell for 4 or 5 euros. The next year, 2 years later, when I put together the Portugal box that we did, I ended up seeing his wine on our regional local importers book portfolio. So I asked to taste it, and the price here in US was $16. And this was 2 years ago. So I'm sure it's 17 now, if not 18. So something that they were selling for €5, they're selling for $16 here in the States.
That's wholesale.
That's wholesale. That's $16 wholesale. Yeah. So.
Well, Donald Trump will make it 20.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. So for all you European wine drinkers, old world wine drinkers, you better load up now. It's coming. It's gonna be rough.
Well,
yeah.
it's too late. It's too late
Yeah.
because they won't ship in the wintertime.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of my importers, I've been talking to them, and they're kind of like overextending themselves. They're like, we're ordering as much as we can, trying to get wines in as much as we can. That's financially reasonable, but even pushing it to get as much wine in as we can from Europe. So, you know, we don't have to buy shit in tariffs so much. But yeah, it's
I think you had said that early in the year you would have your hits from the past. I think might need to accelerate that process.
yeah, yeah, I know. I mean, those wines are either here already, or if they're just ordering now, I mean, it's not gonna get here till, you know, February, March at the earliest. So yeah, it's a interesting time where we're heading into. Any questions about this wine or anything else about this month, or why not? Any new fact, something you've learned you didn't realize before? Any new realizations? Any favorite of the 4 that you tasted? Also, like just the absolute favorite in terms of flavor, but also like given the price, which one would you drink? Which one is the most bang for your buck for you?
For me, I think I'd go with this one. I found the champagne and last week's wine to be a little too dry for my taste.
Mm.
There's a little bit of sourness there that I like.
Yeah.
Wine. I tend to like wine that isn't quite that sour. So those two are a little bit too aggressively sour for me.
Okay.
This one I think is delicious and it's quite cheap. So that's a nice combo.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I really enjoyed the Cabo from last week.
Yeah. Okay.
And obviously the champagne, but that one's pricey.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not an everyday champagne for sure. I don't know. Maybe some of you can afford $51 half bottle.
The taste of the wine's good, but I can't get over the odor, the smell that's just doesn't go with the taste of the wine.
This one? Okay. Okay.
For me, the price of this one made it taste a little better. Because it was just, it's not what I expect. You know, it's not what I expect from a champagne.
It's just not a champagne.
Right, fair enough. Yeah, I guess it wasn't what I was expecting. And but your pairing suggestions I think made sense, and in that context, I'd probably like it more. But when I first got it, I was like, I think the other two at least that I can remember, I preferred the Prosecco in the small
Yeah.
bottle one.
Yeah.
But I think in the right place and time, this one would work
Yeah.
nicely.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's another thing. It's like every wine has its, time and a place, It's not that one is absolute better than the other. It's just, depending on when you're drinking it, where you're drinking it, who you're drinking it with, all of that matters. For sure. For sure. Any other questions?
But like speaking of the champagne, we had the Duval LeRoy not too long
Uh-huh.
ago. I like that one better than the one we tried this month. Just personally.
So
But I think it's a little cheap.
if that's the case, Dave, I think you enjoy actually more old school style champagne, like the opulent, like with a little more dosage. Because that Duval LeRoy had, I believe, if I remember correctly, like somewhere between 6 and 8 grams of a dosage added to it. So yeah, just if you are shopping for champagne instead of a Brut Zero, Brut Nature, go with Brut, or even the one above, but then you will see a lot of sugar. So yeah, stick with Brut instead of a Brut Zero or Brut Nature. Then it will be more in your
That's my feeling as well.
Yeah. That Duval LeRoy is good though. It's very good. Cool. What's everybody's Thanksgiving plan? What do you guys what's happening tomorrow?
Gonna drink Riesling.
Or drink Riesling. Yeah. What do you guys all opening? What are you guys all cooking? What are you guys making? I take it nobody's traveling, or you've already traveled to where you need to be going.
I just recognized.
Stop the recording first of all.